Aloha and what's up everyone? I'm JayDreamerZ and welcome to Truth in Movies. Now, this is a movie I've been wanting to do for a long time. I reference this movie all the time, and I can't believe this wasn't the first movie that we ever broke down. It's called The Neverending Story. Hello to everyone in the chat. I see you guys. So I'm going to try to go through this one a bit quicker than all my other movie breakdowns. We'll see if we can do it in less time than the movie actually is. But this is a classic. This one's so good. This is probably one of the first movies I watched as a child that made me cry for reasons unknown. From heartbreak to inspiration. It touches on so many different things, especially the clash between what is known today as reality and fantasy. And is fantasy a lie? Is fantasy fiction? Does it have no place in what we call reality? This movie gets deep into it. So, without further ado, I give to you The Neverending Story. Alright, so the movie starts off, The Neverending Story. One theme that you're going to see throughout this movie is the plasma apocalypse. Okay, so that's one thing that I talk about on my channel that I relate many of these movies to because there's elements of it in all of them. As you can see, you've got the picture of the storm. That's one of the characters in the movie called the Nothing. It's a storm that just destroys and not even destroys, it just makes things disappear from the world. We're going to talk more about the Nothing and the world storm, but in the background you can kind of see it, and that's how the credits play out at the beginning, the intro credits. We start off with a boy who wakes up from a dream. He's a dreamer, and his mom just passed away, so he actually just had a bad dream or a scary dream. He's dreaming about his mom. This boy's name is Bastian. Let's talk about his name. Now, for all of you fans of the movie out there, you might know the boy's name's Bastian, but did you know that his full name is actually Bastian Balthazar Bucks? Let me make that a little smaller. Bastian Balthazar Bucks. That's the kid's full name, and we're going to break it down because I like to study etymology, which is the study of word origins, which help to open the book of life to me and open up so many different avenues into my research and study on life itself and reality. So let's check out Bastian's full name here. First, Bastian comes from Sebastian. Now, Sebastian essentially means venerable. Venerable is kind of the same as like honorable. Balthazar. Now I'm going to break this one down for you without showing you any elements because I already know what all these words mean. Balt is the exact same word as belt. So something that wraps around you, something that provides security by wrapping around you. Yeah, I don't have the plasma glasses on today, CZ, Skywatcher. But yes, so Balt. Balt means something that wraps around you, something that keeps you secure. Oz, like the Wizard of Oz, means strong or strength. And then Ar, or Or, means light or fire. So Bastian, Balthazar, or belt of strong fire. And this last name, Bucks, this one's an interesting one here. It says that essentially it's a Muslim surname. The other word is Muslim as well, or Middle Eastern, I should say. Traces back to the Middle East. So we're going with this meaning, which means fate, destiny, or share. So Bastian Balthazar Bucks, BBB, also can be translated into honored one who is fated to secure a strong fire or light, or fated to be surrounded by a strong fire or light. It's a belt azar, a belt of light, a belt of truth. Now, after he wakes up, he goes to have some breakfast. His dad in the monkey suit walks in, wearing the suit and tie. Now, his mother passed away. His mother, as in many different movies, represents the female aspect, the feminine energy of the world in the way that it used to be under the red sky. Okay, so we go from a blue shift sky to a red shift sky. The blue shift sky is more male dominant, male energy, I would say, energetically. And this is represented by the modern day world where they're living in a cube here, with all these boxes and cubes and everything everywhere. His dad comes out wearing the suit and tie, very male dominant energy. And he says, "I had another dream, Dad. It was about Mom." His dad says, "We can't let Mom's death be an excuse for not getting the old job done, right?" This is very much a male thing to say energetically. I'm not talking about the sexes so much as I am the energies. The male energy is more concerned with the ends justify the means, getting the objective done. It's sort of a left brain mentality. Now, Bastian has more of a right brain mentality. We're going to talk about the left versus the right brain here in a minute. And so his dad sits down. He says, I got a call from your math teacher yesterday. He's very concerned about the boy's academics, right? He's not doing very well academically in school. Math is left brain. She says you were drawing horses in your math book. He's like, yeah, they were unicorns anyway, right? Let me just correct you on that one. Unicorns are very interesting too, as opposed to horses, because they're more of a horse. Just a regular horse would be more like the reality that we live in. The unicorn is more of the mystical, the imaginary, the way of fantasy, and the way that things may have once been. Now, his dad says, I'm very disappointed that you didn't try out for the swimming team. Can you believe this conversation already? This poor kid's mom died. He had a dream about her. His dad totally bypasses the dream about the mom, doesn't provide any sympathy, empathy, concern, no love, really. He just tells them to, like, basically trudge on. Who cares? Let's talk about your school. You know what I mean? It's not very balanced. It's too far to the left. It's too far to the left-hand path. And he's also concerned about a team mentality. He wants him to join a team, a swim team. That's the male dominant side. To choose a side, to plant your flag, to pick a team, essentially. Instead of being open and friends with everyone, you have to learn to conquer and learn to fight, and which is what sports are. Sports are just practice for war. He says, Bastian, you're getting old enough to get your head out of the clouds. Look at the look on this kid's face. He's probably going, really? Get my head out of the clouds. Okay. This is his father giving him this advice, right? He struggles against this type of left brain mentality. Then he says, stop daydreaming. He tells him to stop dreaming. Stop daydreaming. Stop dreaming during the day. Stop wondering about things. And this is what we've been told too. And that a lot of us are waking up from this type of mentality. The world will tell you, stop dreaming, stop wondering, stop being creative. However, my research indicates that that's exactly what is needed to return to a place of innocence in this world, to return the world itself to more of a garden-like wonderland, so to speak. So, the kid goes to school, Bastian's on his way, there's some bullies there already, calling him names, weirdo. This kid stands out, he's a dreamer, right? His head's in the clouds, so he gets picked on by these very male-dominant energy children who start chasing after him. Let's get him. They chase him down the street. They're like, where's your money, man? Where's your money? It's really weird to me, too, because like this kid right here and this kid right here always looked like grown adults, but just children form. It's weird. To me, at least. That's what they care about. They want money, right? They're not out to make friends or anything. This kid's getting picked on. They're trying to take his money. That's what the world is doing to us. The world is full of bullies that want us and insist that we make all of this money as their slaves so that they can just take it away from us. So the three bullies throw him into the garbage can. Essentially, this is where we are. We are the outcasts. We're the black sheep of this world. Those who are waking up and who have a strong imagination. Your creative abilities are being unlocked. You're dreaming more. You're thinking outside of the box. The world wants to throw you into the trash. This trash can symbolism is also something we talk about on my channel in reference to the plasma apocalypse and the steampunk era that emerges after the reset. All right, so Bastian escapes. He hides in a library. This is a place where the bullies are never going to find you, okay? If you're doing research, this is where I hide. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm in my bat cave studying. Like that's and they don't want to come near us whenever we're studying, whenever we're researching. They would rather be out, punching each other in the shoulder, calling people names, being bullies in the world. That's just how they're raised. That's the energy of the world that we live in today. So Bastian hides in this library or this bookstore. Then he starts to check things out. He hears some guy around the corner. It's the bookshop owner, the bookkeeper. And he says, the video arcade is down the street. We just sell small rectangular objects. They're called books. He sort of pokes at him, right? Because he's of an older generation. He's somebody that likes to study and to read instead of mindlessly being, his face is stuck in a tablet all day, or in a phone all day, or on a video game screen all day, right? Not that I'm against video games, because I feel like there's a lot of symbolism and we can learn from those as well. But a book is so much better, because a book is just the words, usually, unless it's accompanied by pictures. But the book allows you to create, to form the pictures, to form the world in your mind. You literally just start to create. And that is how the movie ends, which we'll see later on. He says, they're called books. And he's like, well, what are you reading? What's that one about? He goes, this one? Oh, this one's something special. This is no ordinary book. He's like, what do you mean? Well, your books are safe. Now, let's talk about your books being safe. Your movies, I would also say, are safe. Your video games are safe. He's reading the Neverending Story, which is symbolic for our story. You all are chapters in the never-ending story. You're all going about your days. Right now, we're literally making a live stream where people are going to go back and read what everyone has written in the chat. You're writing a book in this video right now that others are going to read. Others are going to be a part of. Others are going to feel emotions and respond and leave comments, which other people are going to read. We're all a part of this never-ending story. He says your books are safe. Well, why is that? Your movies are safe. When you go to the movie theater, you get invested. Your heart starts to beat. You start worrying about the main character. You start feeling for the characters. But when the credits roll and it's time to walk away and you leave that theater, it's just like Neo when he walks away from the Oracle. She says, by the time you finish eating this cookie, you'll remember that you don't believe in any of this stuff. You see, the fog of the world starts to envelop our minds once again. Once we put the book down, once we walk out of the movie theater, we start becoming distracted by the labyrinth that we walk around in and the distractions thereof that keep us from our destiny, from our purpose, from realization and self-realization. So he says something that many people do. Many people right before they break out of their shell and become more truth-oriented on their journey. He says it's only a story. I can't stand that word, only, or just. It's just a story. It's just this. It's only that. No, it's not. To you, you're making it that. But the reality is everything is detrimental. Everything is important. Everything is valuable because it exists. It is a part of the whole and it's connected to everything else. Everything makes little tiny waves in the ocean of life. And those waves touch other waves and other people and other things and influence the future. So the guy puts down the book he's reading. He puts the newspaper ad over it. This is really interesting. So he goes to move the newspaper. Look what it says. Post in big letters. The word post is akin to the word beam or pole or pillar. We did a video about pillar worshiping and the rod god. Highly recommend that video. Check it out if you want to know more about the blue beam that shoots up from Mount Meru. It is a reoccurring theme throughout my channel. So he moves it out of the way and he sees the never-ending story, the book with the orange symbol on the front, the snakes that twist around. We'll talk more about that in a bit. So he yanks it. Yoink. Boing, bye. This is my book now. I'm reading this one. This is a dangerous book. Why is it dangerous, right? Remember he said your books are safe. This one is not safe. This is the game of life. This is the reality that you can get hurt. You can, it's dangerous every single day. This is a real book. This is real living is whenever there's danger. There's real danger, right? Our world and our government would try to tell us that there's not supposed to be any danger. There's not supposed to be any fear. There's not supposed to be any this and that. We need those types of things. We need those types of things to light a fire under our butt so that we feel alive, because that's when you feel alive the most. So the shopkeeper sees that he took the book and he smiles. Why? He wanted him to take the book, right? He wanted him to grow. This kid is obviously a reader. He talked about all the different books that he has, and he's nice. He doesn't have a bad energy. He's not selfish. He says, don't worry, I'll return your book, and leaves him a little note. So Bastian, the sweetheart, who just stole the book, runs off to his academic real-world job or his class, right? Walking down this, look at all the squares in this picture. You see that? You see, that's more left hand, that's more left brain is the square, and the right brain is more the circle. They try to keep us in boxes, and they show you all these squares everywhere. Now, this is his classroom. Back when I was a child, classrooms, some of them had these little windows so that they can check in and make sure that, everyone's acting appropriately. So he checks in, he sees, now, do you see the door? The door's blue. This is symbolic because it represents the blue sky of the world that we live in today. The normal world, the real world, if you will, right? Of the masculine energy that we live in. He goes, oh, the math test. So he's late for school once more. He's chased by bullies. He's missing a math test. He's already sucking at math because that's more of the left-hand path. It's more of the left-hand brain. The left hand of the brain, the left side, is more logical. It's focused more on language, numbers, and it's more like the ends justify the means. It's more of a computer or a robot mentality. Whereas the right hand, represented by red over here, and this is the appropriate colors for these as well, the right side of the brain represents expression and creativity and emotions and imagination and things of that nature. So then he escapes. He takes the book up to the attic and he goes through a red door. Remember, the classroom in the world of the real that we live in today was the blue door. Now he unlocks the red door to go read the Neverending Story up in the attic, which reminds me of the song Paint It Black. He goes, I see a red door and I want it painted black. You'll see the red door symbolism in many, many different movies. Usually horror movies or scary movies, they'll have a red door where the characters go through it, and on the other side of the red door is something magical or scary or mystical or horrifying or totally abnormal, essentially, because the red door represents when we go through our polarity shift in our world and the sky depressurizes, the world depressurizes, and our atmosphere depressurizes, it blows a hole open in the sky, and the red plasma that's swirling around just on the other side of the sky in what's known as the plasmasphere is the only light that can be seen when the sun and the moon go dark. And it looks like a red door because things get sucked up out of it and beings come in through it. It's the red door of our world. So he goes up to the attic of the world, symbolically, on a microcosmic scale. He goes up to the attic to learn, to read, to study, to be by himself. So he opens up the book and he starts to read. It was midnight in the howling forest. I'm going to stop right there. This is the plasma apocalypse, okay? We're going to transition now from this reality, which is the world as we know it, to the world as we don't know it, the world the way it once was, the world the way it will be once again in the future. This is a transition. The transition point is the neutral point in the polarity shift of our world, which we call the apocalypse. It's always midnight when the apocalypse comes. It's the middle of the night because all the lights go out worldwide. And it's always, usually there's a howling forest, a whispering forest, a screaming, a magic forest, something of that nature, because we're going to start at the North Pole, where there once was land. If not, there might still be land there. And the reason it's howling is because the wind whips through so fast because it creates a worldwide tempest that it's very loud. Just like if you've ever been in a tornado, you can hear the wind howling. It's very loud. So we start off by learning about some of these otherworldly characters. There's this giant snail, which we'll get to in a minute. There's the Oompa Loompa, who looks like he killed Willy Wonka and took his clothes. That's pretty much Willy Wonka's clothes right there, right? He looks kind of suspect. I mean, that might be an everlasting gobstopper. I don't even know. But yeah, totally is an Oompa Loompa. It's actually literally the same Oompa Loompa as in the new Willy Wonka movie remake, which totally sucked. Anyway, then there's a giant bat, a huge sleeping giant bat. And it's owned by something called a night hob. I'll show you a picture in a minute. The night hob, or the hobs, are land fae that are similar to brownies. A brownie is like a small humanoid type creature, just like in Willow, like these guys were. Just like in the Labyrinth, just like this guy was like, your mother was an aardvark, or whatever he says. Mischievous little creatures. So then you see their campsite. This is the Oompa Loompa that killed Willy Wonka, metaphorically speaking, ish. And this is the night hob over here. Here's the giant snail, which we'll learn about more in a minute. Here's the bat. And in the background, you can see what looks like a steamroller. getting closer and closer, a huge one with a giant on the back of it. A giant with a steamroller that's crushing all the trees, knocking all of the trees down in this forest as it goes. They're all starting to panic. They're waking up. They're like, oh my God, there's a huge rock giant on the way on a steamroller that's terraforming the land as he goes. Why? Because the giants terraformed the land. I have a video I did that talks about how the book of Enoch says that the angels of God labored at the trees and cut down these ancient giant trees that once existed. So little Oompa Loompa guy, I don't remember his name, little Oompa Loompa guy that killed Willy Wonka. He looks up with this huge snail. Here's the night hob. He also looks up. You'll see the night hob characteristics a little bit better here in a minute. And they, lo and behold, see this huge giant creature made out of rock. He is a petrified giant, symbolically speaking. The giants once existed. This cyclical apocalypse that happens that the movie calls the Nothing, when it happens, it's electrical. It's a huge electrical storm, and that electricity, those streams of plasma that shoot down from the sky, have the ability to instantly petrify organic life, which is bad news for the giants who live during the red sky when they enter into the apocalypse going into the blue sky, because they have nowhere to hide. They become petrified, or they sink down into the ground or into the waters, the flood waters. Anyway, they're also the ones that tend to terraform the earth and stuff, which is why he's riding a giant steamroller. Now, check this out. Just because he's a giant, does that mean he's evil? Does that mean he's bad? They're all scared at first, but then he goes, "Oh, excuse me. Would it be all right if I joined you this evening?" Well, see that? He's a polite giant. He's a friendly giant. He's a big friendly giant. So we have a lot of misconceptions about giants, sort of just assuming that they're all bad and evil, when that's not always the case, right? There's bad, and there's evil, and there's good everywhere we go, in every aspect of life, in every race, and every religion, and every person, and every plant and creature, all over the place. It's balance. It's nature. So then he starts talking about why he's there. He says, "Where I come from," I can't do the rock biter voice, "where I come from in the north." Now, time out. Wait a minute. He comes from the north. The north traditionally is the land of the giants, where the giants come from, where the giants live. Why is that? Because one, the north is where these beings land who invade or I don't want to say invade, but who land in our world during the polarity shift. They land around the North Pole at Mount Meru, right in the calm of the storm, right in the middle of the storm or the eye of the storm. They land in the North Pole at the north, which is why the giants are associated with the north. Also, there's maybe an entrance into the inner regions of the earth, and inside of the earth, it's said that people are way bigger and their lifespans are much longer. So the north, in the northern area, or the Hyperborean area, is where the giants are typically said to come from. He says, "We used to have exquisite gourmet rocks. Now they're all gone." So the rocks disappeared in the north. That's interesting, because if you look at the maps of the North Pole, a long time ago, a few hundred years back, there was rocks, there was land at the North Pole. Now there's not. He says, "Near my home, there used to be a beautiful lake, but then it was gone." He says it dried up, right? No, it just wasn't there anymore. First, there was no lake anymore, and then finally, no rocks. Now, the lake thing is really interesting, because I came across a Native American legend that talked about how the Native Americans here in America went through a period of darkness. There was about 3 days of darkness, and the survivors who came out after the light had returned to the world had described how they went to their local rivers and their lake systems and whatnot, and they were gone. They had been moved to a different place. This is because of the the neutral point, or zero gravity, that happens, whatever you'd like to call it. There's a zero gravitational point during this polarity shift. And it doesn't last very long, but it's enough to allow objects that are not inside or tied down or under the earth to float. And that, combined with the tempest or the world storm, the Nothing, right, blows and sucks everything up into the sky, including water, and especially water. So, the Oompa Loompa who killed Willy Wonka says, "This is also happening in the West. A strange Nothing is destroying everything." And then this guy says, we night hobs live in the south. It's there too. So we have representatives from all parts of the world testifying that this nothing, that this world storm is indeed around the world, that it's a worldwide cataclysm that's befalling this fantastic land called Fantasia, which, by the way, is Earth. This is Earth a long time ago, okay? This is where we get our fantasy, our lore, our myths, our legends. We get them from ourselves. This is all stuff we've forgotten about. Hold on, let me clear my throat. Oh, sorry about that. All right, so they say maybe our whole land is in danger. My people are sending me to the ivory tower, says the rockbiter. And they go, we are on the same mission. Well, they're like, well, what are we waiting for? Let's go. Let's take action. Let's head to the ivory tower. We're going to talk about the ivory tower here in just a minute. Now, the rock giant's concerned because he's like, well, I can't wait for a snail. Do you want me to just carry you? He's like, it's a racing snail. Why is this a racing snail? Because it's gigantic, okay? In the movie, they make it go faster than the rockbiter, which is, questionable for me. Possible, but questionable. But to this little tiny guy, this snail moves at an incredible rate of speed, okay? Compared to an actual snail that would be like this big, that would go very, 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 very slow. A huge, gigantic snail would go much, much faster. And this is something that we have evidence of. Giant snails that may have once existed. I think that they totally existed. If you look back at ancient, old, vintage, medieval artwork, they will show knights and royalty and nobility fighting giant snails, even riding on the backs of giant snails. Why is that? And this is also a giant snail from the movie Love and Monsters. But why is that? Where would we get a giant snail from? Well, you could say that they could fall in from the macrocosm above, where everything is gigantic out there in space, right? Or you could say that the conditions in our world have changed. We are like frogs in a pot. If you put a frog into a pot of water and you put it on the stove and you slowly heat it up, it will boil to death. It will stay there. It won't notice that the temperature is changing because of the gradual increase. That is just like us. We don't notice that we're slowly shrinking and getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and our lifespans are shrinking, getting tinier and tinier and tinier, because the pressure has slowly builds up in our world over time. We live in an enclosed world, and the pressure inside of it builds because the energy continues to enter into this world, and it builds up a lot of pressure. So if you take away that pressure and you add in a bunch of new chemicals that are introduced during the plasma apocalypse, you have conditions that are altogether different than the conditions that we live in today, which allow for longer lifespans and gigantic growth. This is actually a real snail. Okay, there are gigantic snails. I mean, this one's not gigantic compared to the racing snail, but look, we have stuff like that in the world today. Anomalies, right? Look at a lion. That's a cat. It's just a gigantic cat. Look at a bear. It's a dog. It's a huge, gigantic dog, but we don't recognize these things. We just label them, slap a name on them, and we move on. So all of a sudden the trees start to be ripped up from the ground and they go, the nothing's coming, right? It's a storm. You see all that fog as well? That's another part of the plasma apocalypse, is worldwide fog, mist, smoke, etc. Then you see this guy. They're all flying towards the ivory tower. He looks up. He's on his bat. Look at the color of the sky, right? It's that sort of post-apocalyptic rusty orange reddish color. That's because they're showing you in this world the sky is red. It's a red sky. It's not the blue sky, okay? It's the fantasy sky. It's the fantasy world. And that's the reason why he's able to be on the back of a giant bat. I mean, this guy may actually have been a survivor from the past. I believe that those of us who survived the coming reset of the world, we tend to keep the sizes that we are if you've already gone through puberty. So we tend to stay small in a world where everything is growing gigantic. So this bat may be something new that's introduced. Meanwhile, this guy, he looks like he could be a lot older, right? He's got long sort of fingernails like they've been growing for a while. His nose is super long, which is a body part that continues to grow. His ears are super long. This is how the vampires are portrayed as well. So they're headed towards the ivory tower. Where is the ivory tower located? Well, if this is Earth, it would be the North Pole. It would be the middle of the world. And he says it's at the heart of Fantasia. I pulled up a map that somebody made of Fantasia, and boom, right there. You've got a labyrinth, appropriately, which is around the ivory tower, right at the middle of the map. If you look at these TV shows and cartoons and movies and video games, there's always something interesting and something of import right at the middle, right at the heart of the map. So, you can see the post-apocalyptic rust-colored sky there. You can see the rock biter. You see the snail looks like a normal size compared to the rock biter in that particular image, right? And then you've got the ivory tower. This is the Plasma Volcano that I talk about. Mount Meru is one of its more popular names, and legend says that it was right at the middle of our world. It's known as Rupas Negra, or the Black Mountain, the Magnetic Mountain as well. And you can see one of the rivers that shoots out from the side there. Traditionally, there's 4 rivers. This is also kind of reminds me of like the castle in Disneyland, whenever they show you the intro to all the Disney movies. And traditionally, I've seen that it's sort of a whitish blue light or a blue beam that shoots up. When the plasma around our world no longer comes down, it's circling and headed down around the sky right now. When it reverses and we go through that polarity shift, it will go into flux, it will hit a neutral point, and the light itself, the energy, will reverse and go upwards in an upwards direction, spiraling up. That means that the energy inside of the world, if there is energy or an inner sun or whatever it may be inside of the world, it will go up as well, coming out through all of the cave systems, and specifically through the main entrance, which is traditionally found at the North Pole. So then this guy hits the bat. I told you to stay awake. Ooh, that's talking to us. Stay awake, right? Stay awake. That's something that's another part of the plasma apocalypse is people tend to fall asleep, right? People will pass out from fear, but they'll also pass out because of the depressurization. It's rapid depressurization, which can take people's breath away quite literally and make them sleepy and tired. And so we are warned and cautioned throughout many of the fantasy or horror or whatever it may be to stay awake. Don't go to sleep. Stay awake. It's also symbolic for, hey, stay awake mentally, right? Don't fall asleep and be one of these sleepwalkers in the world. Now, here's the Plasma Volcano. It's not an ivory tower, as you can see. Like this right here, this is a volcano. This is a mountain that shoots up with a caldera in the middle. This is a volcano, and it's spewing out a beam. It's got a beam shooting up from it, and if they do a close-up, you can see it's this whitish light blue light that shoots up, essentially. He says it's the home of the Empress. The Empress always lives at the North Pole, essentially, in the Plasma Volcano. But traditionally, we depict it and we cartoonify it as a princess locked in a tower, or a princess locked in a castle, or stuck in a castle, or whatever it may be. And we have to rescue her, and we have to help her, and all this type of stuff. That princess is that feminine energy, that shift, that helpful healing light that shoots up and fills our world with spirit, essentially, with like good spirit. And it's also known as Sophia, or wisdom. So if you look up the ancient goddesses, they will all be represented in some way, shape, or form by a pillar, a beam, things of that nature. They'll a light almost every single time. And they will be goddesses of wisdom and healing and growth and things of that nature. He says she's our only hope. The blue beam is the only hope. The blue beam is the only thing that can fix the world going bad, essentially. So they're on their way to try to, talk to this princess or whatever. Now, you see all the strange looking creatures that have gathered around, everyone from the 4 corners, all of the wise men and women from their different cultures have come to the blue beam, to the light of the world, so to speak. And they're there to try to figure out how to beat the nothing, right? They need to know. They have forgotten. Can you believe that? Even they have forgotten. These wonderful, weird, strange creatures, they have forgotten how to beat this. This is cyclical. This happens to Fantasia all the time. This happens to our world all of the time. The problem is that we get amnesia and we forget. We forget who we are, where we came from, what our purpose is, what used to happen in the past. It's a hidden history. So, because the conditions were different, it allows for various types of creatures and humanoids that look different in the world. Again, you also see this elephant, this sort of alien elephant creature is representative in amidst them. I believe that's because elephants are direct descendants of Fantazoids, or what I call Fantazoids, which are otherworldly creatures or animals. I don't think that I think that some animals, maybe even all of them, I don't know, but at least some of them are alien to this world. They're not terrestrial. Okay, they floated down from the sky during the neutral point, where those beings and creatures and whatever that exist just outside of our sky, they sort of, fall in, or they get pulled in, or they travel here, whatever it may be, and they float down. They don't fall down because gravity slowly restores itself, so things float and they land safely. Now, this guy who works for the princess, or the childlike empress, always childlike, says, I know that you have come here to ask her for help. The empress has actually become deathly ill, and there seems to be a mysterious link between her illness and the nothing. There is a link between the blue beam that shoots up from Mount Meru, or the Plasma Volcano, and the plasma apocalypse, which is the eye in the sky, the hole in the sky, the storm that opens up, the depressurization event, right? There is a link, direct link between those two things. When one shows up, the other one afterwards will also show up to get rid of it, seemingly, because they happen in order, okay? There's always the bad guy, and then the blue beam will show up, and then the bad guy goes away, and the blue beam stays for a while, and then during the next apocalypse, the bad guy will show up again and kill the blue beam, and the blue beam will become deathly ill and retract back into the earth, the inner recesses, the hollow earth, Sheol, the underworld, whatever it may be. That princess will be taken away. That wisdom will be taken away. The magic will be taken away. And this is the fight that you're watching. He says she is dying. So what does this mean? This means they currently live under the red sky in a magical world where we once lived and where we will go to once again, where the blue beam exists, represented by the emerald, not emerald, what do you call it? The tower, whatever tower it is that they're at. I want to say Emerald City. I'm getting my movies mixed up. Anyway, let's move forward. The plains people who hunt the purple buffalo have a great warrior. It is Atreyu. Now, you've probably all asked yourselves, what does Atreyu mean? You may have even Googled it, but you won't have come up with anything, I promise. Why is that? That's because they think that Atreyu is just a made-up word. No word is a made-up word. You might think you made up a word, but everything represents something magically. Everything represents something vibrationally. So I will tell you what I believe Atreyu represents or means. The A at the beginning is the ox head. It represents strength. In Latin, which is the language that sort of inverted the truth, it means without. But in this context, A means strong, tre means tree, right? And then U, Atreyu. The U is the Vav, which means attached to or of the. So Atreyu means of the strong tree, of the mighty tree, of the world tree. I did a video called The Lost Tribe of the Tree of Life. If you would like to know more about those of you who may possess the spirit of the world tree, I highly recommend checking out that video. You might like it. It might resonate with you. So Atreyu means one of the strong tree. Basically, somebody who has a strong, life-giving spirit, okay? Now, it's interesting because when they say that Atreyu's name, they show you Bastian. Because Bastian and Atreyu are the same. Atreyu is Bastian in a past life, essentially. Now, they talk about hunting the purple buffalo. We don't have purple buffalo in our world today. But we do have albino creatures. We do have hairless creatures this is a hairless albino looking buffalo. Now imagine this creature near the blue beam under a red sky. What color might it appear to be? Purple, right? Interesting. So he's like, a little boy. Wow, a little boy. Yes, it's always a little boy. It's always a little boy who is going to save the world, or a little girl, or whatever it may be, because you have to have a childlike mindset. You have to have a return to innocence. You have to shake off that male energy that is in the world today. So the boy comes up and it says, I am Atreyu. So this guy, for some reason, knows that he's got to go by himself. He's like, all right, you're going to go on a quest. You're going to try to save the Empress and figure out what's wrong with her and come up with a cure. That's your quest. You must go alone. You must leave all your weapons behind. Now, this is an inner journey to remember who we are, to know thyself, right? This is not something, no one else can tell you who you are. Nobody else can give you understanding into your inner true self. Only you can. That's why you must go alone. You have to leave all of your weapons behind because this is not a physical fight. It's not something you can physically fight against. The physical fight is the world today. It's the world of the blue sky. They want us to fight, to be focused on the physical instead of the spiritual. So he's given a good luck charm. Good luck is huge in this movie. Good luck is magic. Okay, magic is luck. Luck is magic. It's the same thing to me personally. He's given this token, this symbol. It's called the Orin. And the Night Hob's like, the Orin, ooh. And the Orin is also on the front of the book, right? It should be on the front of the book because within if the cover of the book is the sky of our world, the top of the world, okay? Inside, if you open up the world, you will read all about all of us characters who are in here right now, living out the Neverending Story. The orange should be on the outside of the book because it represents the plasma that's twisting around our sky or our world. It is the light, okay? And he says it will guide and protect you. The light will guide and protect you. So Atreyu goes off, rushing off throughout the many different lands in this world, in Fantasia. Look at the land, right? This would escape many people. They don't normally consider the landscape. I encourage you to consider the landscape. The landscape itself is a beautiful and amazing and invigorating study that will open up worlds of information to where we came from and to what the world is and what it will be like once again. You see these structures? This isn't wind and rain. Now, I know it might be some sort of a painting or something like that, but we have structures just like this in our world. Some things look like they're petrified giant mushrooms. Some things look like the land itself was just pulled up into the sky and then hardened suddenly, right? You'll see lots of these types of landscapes. Then the nothing is approaching. It's all over the place, represented by the lightning storm worldwide, the tempest. And it says, a creature of darkness also began his quest. So some sort of creature of darkness starts his quest the moment that Atreyu is searching for the truth, essentially. He's searching for a cure to the world, a cure to the element for this, the princess or whatever. Now, this creature, represented by this giant werewolf, essentially, which, by the way, is a werewolf in the book. In the movie, it's just kind of like a giant wolf or whatever, but it's a werewolf. This monster starts to chase after him. This is the monster in the maze. This is the monster that chases after all of us, trying to kill us time and time again, trying to distract us, trying to keep us away from getting to the center of the maze, trying to keep us from returning to ourselves, to getting to know ourselves. Something will always come after us. So Atreyu takes a break. He's tired. He's like, I'm passing out. I like this scene. I just wanted to point it out because you can see giant footprints in the ground right there. They did not have to put this in the movie, but they did. And I like that. They don't point it out or anything. And I've seen stuff like that in our world. We have giant footprints in our world. If you look around, I don't know how it's not on the, I mean, I do know how it's not on the news, but we had giants that existed, and their footprints are all over the world, all over the place. Are some of them faked? Yes, of course. People are going to fake stuff left and right, wherever they go, because there's balance to everything. Wherever there's truth, there's going to be lies, right? Look at this. Look at the geography. Look at those. That's not plate tectonics. That's not the world is just pushing really hard and then it made a pointy mountain over thousands of years or whatever. No, man, that's Earth being pulled up into the sky and petrified or something else, right? And then we've got deserts as well. Where in the heck do deserts come from? They come from the sky. That's right. Deserts, just like boulders and strange rock formations and many other things, come from the sky. All of the world's dust and debris and sand and everything else is sucked up into the nothing storm, right? And it's broken apart and everything, and it's scattered across to the various places of the world. And then it has to land somewhere. It has to collect somewhere, right? So it does, and we call those places deserts. Then he goes across this sort of crystal valley. Crystals can also be formed through the process of electricity and whatnot. And then he's on the look. He hears that there is this ancient one known as Morla, the wisest being in Fantasia. Why is Morla so wise? Because Morla is the oldest thing in Fantasia. Morla's been there since the beginning. Morla has experienced all of it. He knows all of it. And Morla's home is on the Shell Mountain. Well, that's interesting because Morla is a turtle, a giant snapping turtle, somewhere in the deadly swamps of sadness. Now, he has to go through the swamps of sadness as a part of this journey. It's one of the first places that he encounters. It's one of the first places we will encounter on your truth-seeking journey. You'll get hit in the heart. You'll get heartbroken to realize that, there are so many lies in the world that we've been told, so many falsities whenever we consider the world around us. And it breaks our heart. We become heartbroken. And physically, the world actually becomes a swampy bog whenever we have worldwide earthquakes during this reset event, during the nothing or whatever. They have these earthquakes worldwide, shakes our entire earth. And that causes the water inside of the earth to rise up to the surface and mix with all of the dirt and debris and stuff. And it causes a boggy, swampy kind of a world with quicksand and stuff. So it's very much true. Now, this is the sad part. This is the part where I cried many times, many times. The dang horse, man. Why is this horse so sad? What's going on? Artax is sinking into the swamp. Legend says that whoever allows the sadness to get to them, which means your energy changes, your vibe changes, right? You sink down into the swamp. Which is something that happens in our world too during the apocalypse. You can get sucked up into the sky. You can also get sucked down into like quicksand that's created through liquefaction whenever we have worldwide earthquakes. So he's like yelling at him. He rides the white horse, by the way, which is also traditional, just like Jesus and so many other savior type heroes. They always ride a white horse. Why? Because the white horse represents the Fantazoids that come from the sky. They're usually white, and they're sort of otherworldly animals. Poor kid. Man, you see, he's right there with him. As this is happening, he is right there with him. It's affecting him. This story, that's just a story in the book, is having a real world, real life effect on what he's going through. And him going through this is going to create a memory that's going to direct his path in the future. Instead of going right, he might go left. Instead of going left, he might go right because of this one memory that was created from a book. That's complete fiction, essentially. Or is it? Now he comes to Shell Mountain. Shell Mountain is seen throughout our ancient myths and legends and religions as being the back of the world. Our world used to be depicted, cosmologically speaking, as a turtle. That it was sort of a plane of existence that had a sort of a dome-type sky to it. And the people saw it, or depicted it, or cartoonified it as a turtle. Now, you've got the turtle, which represents the world, or the earth, or our home, as it is now. And then you've got the serpent, the snake, the plasma that wraps around the world. This is the plasma sphere around our world. The elephants are there, the Fantazoids or whatever. These are also columns, which is under the earth. And if you look close, you'll see Mount Meru there on the very top, right in the middle, with what looks like an all-seeing eye on the top of it, right? All right. Turtles always fight the plasma. They always fight some sort of tentacle being. They always fight something that represents the plasma. The turtles are often seen as heroes, like the Ninja Turtles or whatever it may be, right? Even when I broke down the movie It, I talked about how there was a hero who was never in the movie, right? In the books, you've got Pennywise, who is sort of the personification of it, right? Which is sort of like a tentacle sort of plasma monster, in my opinion. And the anti to him, his opposite, is this god who's like a turtle, essentially. So you see this a lot all over the place. So he climbs this tree in order to talk to the turtle. The turtle comes out and he says, how do I, heal the princess? She's dying. How do I heal her? Or what's her name? Childlike Empress, right? He says, you have to ask the Southern Oracle, right? For some reason, he doesn't know. He's got to go to the Southern Oracle to figure it out. But he says, you can't get there. It's 10,000 miles away. 10,000 miles away. Well, that's interesting. They could have said 100,000 miles, right? It still would have been far. Still would have been far enough that we would have got the point. They could have said 1,000,000 miles away. It would have been the same. So why did they pick 10,000 miles away? Well, if Fantasia is Earth, well, this is interesting. If you look up the distance from the North Pole to the South Pole, right, you'll see it's approximately 10,000 miles away from one side to the outside, from the middle to the outside. That's interesting. I wonder if that has some significance in our world today. All right. So all of a sudden, Bastian sees that there's an actual storm coming his way. As the characters are going through a storm in their world, he's about to encounter a storm in his world, which is going to change his life. He also is being lit up by bluish-white light, which is symbolic of the blue beam, as he's in the attic, which is symbolic of the North Pole. So he gets scared, and then he stops himself, and he's like, no, Atreyu wouldn't quit right now. So he decides to press on. But what happens the moment we start to press on? Something jumps out and scares us. That wolf that's been following us tries to distract us, tries to bring us down, tries to depress us or hurt us in some way, shape, or form to keep us from finding the cure to the princess, or from finding ourselves, essentially. And the same thing happens to Atreyu right when he's about to die. He's about to sink into the swamp of sadness. He's about to give up on all hope. Something lucky happens. His circumstances change. Something comes his way. Something pops down out of this red circle in the sky. But the wolf is close behind as well. It's the luck dragon. The luck dragon swoops down out of the sky, just like a Fantazoid would, right? Falling down, floating down, flying down, however you'd like to see it. And he scoops up Atreyu, and he takes him off. Now, Atreyu wakes up in the arms of the luck dragon. Look closely at what the luck dragon looks like. You see those scales? You see how he's not white, but he's sort of a shimmery, opalescent, pearlescent kind of a color. That's the color that I talk about, that I believe most of the Fantazoids are, that come down out of the sky. Those beings that come down from the sky typically are this type of a color. The gods, the angels, the Fantazoids, the creatures, whatever they may be, they tend to be this type of a shiny, pearlescent white color. So, is there such thing as Fantazoids? Could there have been strange, monstrous-looking beings that were so large that they were petrified in the past and we don't recognize them in our rock formations today? I think so. This is actually a rock formation, and don't you think it looks a bit eerily similar to Falcor? That's called mudfossils, where ancient biological life forms were petrified and became a part of our landscape. I do have a whole playlist on mudfossils and mudfossil theory. If you'd like to check it out, you can. So the luck dragon wakes up and he winks. He does this a lot. Why? Because the wink is something that's lucky. It's a lucky symbol, right? To wink. Why do we wink? It's not about closing one eye. It's about the one eye that's open. It's the one eye symbolism. It's the all-seeing eye is the one eye. Why do we do that? Because it's our sign to those who, to everyone else, they don't understand what it means. They don't know what, or the people didn't used to know what that meant, right? But if you close one eye and then you open it again, it's a sign telling other people something is about to change. Don't worry, something's about to change. Don't worry, things aren't going to continue this way forever. Something's about to change. That's why he winks so much. He says, I'm a luck dragon. And Atreus says, you're a dog. Sit. Bro, you're not a luck dragon. You're a dog. Come on, let's all admit that, right? He goes, my name is Falcor. Okay, Treo doesn't really say that, but I wish he would. That'd be awesome. So the giant dog that comes down from the sky, which is God backwards, by the way, right? The Dogon people worshipped these beings that came down from the dog star, Sirius, and they worshipped these gods. God is dog backwards, right? He's a luck dragon who looks like a dog, and his name is Falcor. Well, what in the world does Falcor mean, right? Let's find out. Let's break it down. If you try to look it up, you're not going to find it anywhere on the internet because nobody understands etymology. They don't understand how words work. I am starting to, so I'm going to share that with you. We have to look at the root, falk. Or is a suffix. So falk, 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 right? It's pronounced different ways, falk. Falk meaning, if you type that into Google, you'll see this. Let me see if you guys can see that. There we go. Let me make it a bit smaller. So it means falcon, right? Well, what does falcon mean? It's from Middle High German Valke, or falcon. Hence the nickname for the occupational name of a falconer. In Scandinavian, ornamental name for a falk or a falcon. In Ashkenazic Jewish, it says ornamental name from the German Falke, which means falcon, or in Bohemia from the Czech word Valk. Falk, Valk. The V and the F used to be the same letter. Okay, they used to have the exact same pronunciation, but our words and our letters have changed over time, right? Just like elf and elva. Same exact letter, same pronunciation, but dialect changed over time, so it changed the letter, right? So in Czech, it's Valk. Valk. Interesting. Valkor. Falkor. So let's look up the etymology of falcon, because that's what it says, right? Now, it says that the word comes from falco, falke, falx, falcus, and it means a curved blade, a pruning hook, a sickle, or a war scythe. I think that's how you pronounce that. Essentially, it is the vav. It's the hook. It's the beam that attaches into the earth. That's the original word picture for this, right? So follow me. We're going to put it all together. So falk in Falcor means a hook. It means a beam. It basically means the beam of light that shoots up from the plasma volcano that connects to the earth, right? Now, Falkor is the exact same word as Valkyr, or pluralized, the Valkyrie. Valkyr. Now check this out. The Valkyrie were those who escorted the brave to Valhalla, the brave dead people, technically. And it's almost like Atreus just died, right? But he was escorted up into the sky, into the halls of Valhalla. So the Valkyr are those who are the ones that choose. Let me go ahead and read this about Valkyries. Chooser of the slain, from Valor, those slain in battle. Chooser, the ones who choose, right? From guys, to taste, to choose. Anyway, so Valkyr, the Valkyr, those are the ones who choose. I believe it represents the plasma that comes down into this world that can read auras, they can read your electromagnetic field, because they are electromagnetics, and that's how they see. So they can see your aura, and they can choose those who are good and those who are not good, essentially. And this is where you get your whole, like, be good before the end of the world comes, because bad stuff might happen. Now, let's look at the last part. Falk, we already figured out, means like the beam of light, the chooser, the hook, the Valkyrie, etc. And then or simply means, this is the Hebrew word for or right there. It means light, it means fire, and it implies illumination or understanding. So put those two together and you've got Falcor. So On one hand, you've got this dog creature that represents light and goodness and good luck and helping, right? And then on the other hand, you have another dog creature, this wolf, this dark wolf, this black wolf, that's always hunting and trying to destroy and kill and whatnot. These are the two wolves that live inside of you, that are fighting one another. The age-old question is, which one will win? The one that you feed the most, right? The one that you feed, I should say. So, Falcor, the giant flying dog, gets scratched behind his ears. This is just a cue to let you know he is a dog, okay? Yes, he's a dragon or whatever, yes, whatever, but they clearly gave him like a dog look, and they have him scratching behind the ears, and then boom, gives you the one eye symbol that things are about to change. Now he says, for luck, right? That's for luck, boom. What does luck mean? Good fortune, bad fortune, it's where Lok comes from, Loki, right? Good Loki, bad Loki. And it says here, a word of unknown origin. Well, that's interesting because I know its origin. It comes from the Proto-Indo-European word Luke, as in Luke, I am your father. Luke. We also saw this word whenever we were talking about werewolves. And we were breaking down the etymology of wolf. Remember, it came from lupus, or what was it, Lucas or lupus? Hey, thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. Hey, good day, Australia, and good vibes. All right, so it comes from the word Luke. Luck comes from Luke, which means light. Okay, that's all it means. So he's like, you brought me the entire 10,000 miles? And Falcor's like, no, I only brought you 9,891. Like, what? Really? Bro, what happened? Why'd we stop? Why'd we stop? You know, there's like this deadly oracle up there that you could have just flown me over, right? That might have been a bit easier than having me run and jump and do all that crazy stuff, right? Like, bro, you could have just flown me over this first obstacle and taken me right to that little mirror gate. He doesn't know about it yet, so he's super happy. He's like, oh, yes. But he says, as the dragon flies. So, Morla, the giant turtle, said it's 10,000 miles. That might not be specific. He might not have meant exactly 10,000 miles, right? Because he's leaving out inches, he's leaving out yards, or however long. He's probably rounding it. It just sounds better to say 10,000 miles, meaning it's so far away you're never going to get there. So basically, he's probably about a mile away right now, right? It's only 9,891 miles away. So he says, as a dragon flies, which means like as a crow flies. He's like, I went in a straight line. Morla might have been talking about 10,000 miles if you take paths and stuff like that and you journey, but a dragon can get there in less miles. So behind him, he's got these little helpers, these little elven looking people inside. You'll see one of them. See how he's got the pointy ears and he's got a long crooked nose. He's an old man. He's aged, and that's why his nose has grown so long and his ears have grown so long, and that's why the elves tend to look like they do, right? Because they are immortal and they live for a very long time, and those features continue to grow. Over here, you can see something that he's working on. He's studying the Southern Oracle, or at least the first test of it. Now, this is the Southern Oracle. It's two sphinxes that are facing one another with their wings curved outward and touching, almost like a heart or a dome or whatnot. In the middle, it almost looks like there is a pyramid. Interesting to me. It's almost like it's like the Plasma Volcano. I'm not sure. Anyways, so he's working on this. You may have seen this before in the Bible, or if you're an Indiana Jones fan, it's the Ark of the Covenant. These are the two angels that are on the top of the Ark of the Covenant. You see them here in the form of a sphinx. You know, you can cartoonify it however you'd like to. It's the same thing. These are the two angels on the top of the Ark of the Covenant. What is the Ark of the Covenant? What does Ark mean? Ark means a large box or a chest. It's the root of the word arcane, something that is contained, something that is kept safe or hidden away from the outside. It's a container. It is an ark. Our world is an ark. Our world is a container, also known as a box, which doesn't have to be cubical in nature to be a box at all. It just means a container. So the container of the covenant, right? Now let's jump to the Bible real quick where it talks about these special items that are contained within the Ark of the Covenant. There was manna, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Aaron's rod. A rod is a beam. A rod is a staff. A rod is a plank. A rod is, it's all the same word, okay? and the tablets of the covenant, the tablets that everyone remembers from the movie where Moses held them up and he's like, ah, and he's got the 10 Commandments on him, whatever. He wasn't yelling. I don't know what he said. Anyways, so let's check this stuff out because it's important. It's inside of the Ark of the Covenant. Indiana Jones was there when they opened the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is powerful. The Ark has electricity that can kill people. The Ark has a light that you're not supposed to look at or you can die. This is really interesting. I mean, when it's opened, right? Specifically, when it's opened, you don't look at the light or you can die. So let's talk about these three things: the manna, the staff or the rod, and the tablets. The manna in the Bible, it talks about how there were the Hebrews traveling throughout the wilderness. They were lost. They needed food. God had sent them some quail. And then it also talks about the manna that says there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared on the desert floor. So this manna appeared first initially as dew. I talk about this dew, for example, the best example I could give you is the Ghostbusters, right? Their slime, their ooze. It's a residue that is left behind from strong electrical current of the plasma that enters into our world. Or the plasma that shoots up from the blue beam. Around that blue beam, around that tree of life, there's these sort of mist of dew that comes down, and it's a byproduct. It's also known as the sacred honey. The sacred honey was highly sought after because people would eat it and it would extend their lifespans. It would improve their bodies. And it was the manna of heaven, the manna of God. So the Bible says there was a layer of dew around the camp. The camp was around the mountain. This is why it's called Mountain Dew, for those of you who wonder, and why it's green as well. It's also where you get frosted flakes. It's crazy. Our world, we've forgotten so much. Anyway, let's talk about the staff that budded, okay? The staff is a pole, and then it sprouted leaves off of each side. This is plasma. This is a beam of plasma that shoots up. It's got a toroidal field around it. It shoots up initially as a beam, but as it continues and creates eddies and currents and fluctuations around it, it splits off and it creates a world tree. People have drawn it and interpreted it in different ways, but this is what they're talking about, which is inside of the ark, the container, which is our world, our world inside. This is my interpretation of it. This is from one of my videos I just drew here. Then you've got, what is this? The tablets, right? The tablets that were written, the commands of how to live life or whatever. Those commands are written on our heart, in our spirit, inside of us, essentially. The word tablet or table, which is what it is the word luk in Hebrew. It's literally light. Luk, remember? Luek, however you want to pronounce it. It's the same word. It means light. So these tablets of light. The word tablet or table, also the synonym is board or plank. Oh, actually I want to read this part too. It's important. So if you continue to read, the Latin tabula, a board, a plank, writing table, etc., a small flat slab or piece, usually for inscriptions or for games. In Italian, it's tavola, and it is of uncertain origin related to the Umbrian tafel. Tafel, meaning on the board. Tafel, right here you can see it says tavel, tafel, tafel. It's directly related to this, the Jewish tefillin. In just is pluralized. It's just a suffix that means more than one. The tefillin, are a set of two small black leather boxes containing the scrolls of the parchment inscribed with the verses of the Torah. What is this even about? Well, I'm going to get right to the point. Here is my theory. My theory is that these are black because they represent magnetic mountains that exist in the North Pole. I believe there may have been 3. There's definitely one, which is Mount Meru, but there may have been 2 on each side of it in these old maps that I have found, at least. Inside of those magnetic mountains or plasma volcanoes is this light. It's the light of the world, the light that comes from inside of the heart of the world that shoots out, right? Which comes into our world and incorporates itself or manifests itself into a body, which is what we call spirit or the spirit of God or the spirit of goodness. A synonym for plank is timber, like a tree, or a beam of light, a plank of light. It's all the same. Here's another one, plank, tablet, table. They're all the same. Board. Let's see. I feel like I'm kind of getting too much into this particular word. All right, so let's skip forward for a bit here. So essentially, the 10 Commandments were written with the finger of God, plasma, right, symbolically, on the tablets or the lukas or light beams of stone, or stone lights or stone light pillars is how I translate that. All right, back to the movie. Whoo, buddy. He goes, oh, he's well. Hold on. Let's study some more etymology real quick, right? I want to talk about the word well. The reason why well means good and in good health means that you have sprung up. Life has sprung up inside of you. That's what a well is. A well is not just a hole in the ground. That's not a well, okay? A well is where a spring comes out of the ground. Something comes out, which is life-giving. Water, plasma could be. So that's why we associate the word well with things that are life-giving. It's also the exact same word as the word wish or will. Those are all three have the exact same root words. All right, let's move on. So you've got the scientist in the background who's so excited to share his findings with Atreyu. And then you've got this sort of doctor elf here who wants to inject him with all sorts of vitamins or whatever to make him well, to make him good, right? Now, these are the two things he must have before continuing and passing through. He needs to be of sound mind and sound body. This is very important for him to be able to pass through the first test, okay? This is the first test. This looks exactly like the actual Southern Oracle, but it's not. It's just the first test. You've got these Sphinx chicks, and you have to walk right through them, right between them, and hope that they don't laser beam you with their eyes. So he's like, the Sphinx's eyes stay closed until someone who doesn't feel his own worth tries to pass. So then, lucky enough, there's a knight in shining armor that's walking through right now. He's got a staff, a pole, whatever, with him, and he tries to get through. Nah, they're not having that. They laser beam him with their eyes. He super explodes, falls down, and as you can see, there's electricity all around his body. He was fried electrically. Okay? This boy, Atreyu, is on his way to the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life, symbolically, he's on his way to the Tree of Life, okay? The Tree of Life is guarded by electricity, by flaming swords that turn every which way around it, okay? And there's one way to pass through. You have to match the vibration, okay? If you don't match the vibration, then you get shocked. This is actually a basic part of spells and spell casting and learning how to battle certain spells and stuff like that, is to match the vibration. Anyways, it's a totally different video. So this knight gets blown right off of his horse, and he goes, fancy armor won't help. The sphinxes can see into your heart. These things can see into your heart. That means your heart energy, your chakras, your auras, your spirit, right? Your essence, right towards the middle. So Atreyu's like, I'm going, let's do this, which I like. Now he looks up. Now here's a key thing for all of you grown-ups out there. Atreyu, he's like, okay, so Bastian's like, be confident, be confident. That's something you have to be, is confident. Fear, you have to get rid of. Just like Morpheus tells Neo before he jumps and he makes that leap, which Atreyu's about to do right now. He says you have to get rid of all fear, all doubt, all disbelief. Be confident, right? That's something we need to relearn in ourselves, to have self-confidence, to confide within ourselves. So he's looking up at her eyes, okay? At her eyes. He's looking at her eyes. Don't get distracted, okay? Don't get distracted. The eyes start to open. Oh my God. And then he does his leap of faith. He jumps. And he's safe. But he basically has to squeeze between the sphinxes. Did you know that the word sphinx is literally something that means to squeeze, right? There's a body part that sounds kind of like it. And it means to squeeze, right? That's why there's two sphinxes instead of one. And usually there's going to be two, right? Their job is to squeeze together to keep things from passing, or to pull apart to allow things to pass. Now let's get a little bit deeper into the fractalverse. If you look deep within and you go into the small version, into the mind, into the brain, and you look at the synapses and you look at the neurons that are in the brain, there's something called a synapse, which is the transitional state between two neurons. Two neurons that are very close together have a chemical transition between them in order to pass along information from one to the other so that as a collective, the brain can make a decision about something. That's a short version, okay? Bear with me. One neuron will release some chemicals. One neuron will basically have a plasma apocalypse on a tiny, tiny scale where it will open up, release some information, release some chemicals or whatever, that the other neuron that will try to touch the other neuron. If those chemicals and information are not the right type, then there's these two things that are on the other neuron. I forgot what they're called, receptors or something. They will either open to allow them to pass, to hopefully create some sort of a reaction so that the brain can make a decision about something, or they will close. They are the sphinxes that will open or close based on the condition of what is trying to pass through. It reads through to the heart. If it's unwanted, it will close up. If it is wanted, it'll open up and allow for us out here in the bigger reality to make decisions. Interesting. I wonder if that has something to do with the grander scale of things, right? So, moving on to the movie, he says, "Oh, it's not over. It's not over. The next is the magic mirror gate." Ooh, isn't there always a magic mirror, right? "Atreyu has to face his true self." Oh, okay. Well, Falcor's like, "No problem. That shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, no worries, bro. Like, he could do that." It's actually super anticlimactic in the movie, but let's explain this. First, as you can see, he's traveling to the Southern Oracle. Now, if the North Pole represents the middle of our world, then the Southern Oracle would be towards the outside, or possibly underneath. But I'm leaning towards outside because you can see all this snow and it's very cold and stuff. And he's going through this blizzard. He comes upon the magic mirror. And in the book, it's actually called like the moon mirror or something of that nature. There is always a mirror that you have to pass through. Okay, there's a magic mirror that you have to pass through, and in order to pass through it, you have to come to terms with who you really are, which is essentially akin to traversing the heavens. This is kind of hard to explain, but ancient books like the Book of the Dead and some other books, they would talk about how not everyone is allowed into heaven. Not everyone's allowed into space or whatever. There's trials that you have to pass in order to prove yourself worthy to be out there. Because this is an incubator. This is a home. We're not supposed to leave here until we're ready, until it's time to be birthed, until we're grown, essentially. So he comes face to face with the magic mirror. The mirror is the reflection of the world above us, which is not the world, but the sky above us. This separator between us and what we call and what we've been taught is space, which is really the heavens and the Elysian fields and whatnot. And it's reflective. So you have to pass through that mirror above in order to get through. The mirror above is to the world across from us. This is hard to explain, but our sky is their moon. I'll just leave it at that. All right, one sec. All right, check this out. We're going to actually take a break. I have to use the restroom real quick. Hope that's not too much information, but hey, guess what? We're all human. I'm sure you do too. Go ahead and grab yourself something to drink, something to eat, a snack, go to the bathroom, do what you got to do, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Around the world men's thoughts will fly, quick as the twinkling of an eye, and waters shall great wonders do. How strange, and yet it shall come true. Beneath the water men shall walk, shall ride, shall sleep, shall even talk, and in the air men shall be seen in white and black and even green. For in those wondrous far-off days the women shall adopt a craze to dress like men in trousers wear, and to cut off their locks of hair they'll ride astride bride with brazen brow as witches do. On broomsticks now there'll be a sign for all to see. Be sure that it will certain be. Then love shall die and marriage cease, and nations wane and babes decrease, as wives shall fondle cats and dogs, and men live much the same as hogs. Pictures alive with movements free, boats like fishes beneath the sea. When men like birds shall scour the sky, then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. Then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. For those who live this century through, in fear and trembling this shall do. Flee to the mountains and the dens, to bog and forest and wild fens. For storm will rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore. And as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new be born. Fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die. Mankind will tremble and frightened be, for the 6 heralds in this prophecy. For 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore, and flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers in muddy fen and snarls about his fellow men. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on to apply himself. Too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate. His masked smile, his false grandeur will serve the gods their anger stir, and they will send the dragon back to light the sky. His tail will crack upon the earth and rend the earth, and man shall flee king, lord, and serf. And men will die of thirst before the oceans rise to mount the shore, and lands will crack and rend anew. You think it's strange, it will come true. And in some far off distant land, some men, oh such a tiny band, will have to leave their solid mount and span the earth, those few to count. And those surviving this will then begin the human race again. But not on land already there, but on ocean beds stark, dry, and bare. Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by. Not every land on earth will sink, but these will wallow in stench and stink of rotting bodies of beast and man, of vegetation crisped on land. And those that live will ever fear the dragon's tail for many years. But time erases memory. You think it's strange, but it will be. And before the race is built anew, a silver serpent comes to view, and spew out men of like unknown to mingle with the earth, now grown cold from its heat. And these men can enlighten the minds of future man, to intermingle and show them how to live and love, and thus endow the children with the second sight, a natural thing, so that they might grow graceful, humble, and when they do, the golden age will start anew.
Oh my God, thank you for letting me know. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Okay, let me back up just a second. Okay. So, I'm not going to hit the mute button anymore, ever. All right, so we get back to Atreyo. Atreyo just went through these different trials in order to get to the southern oracle, right? Thanks for letting me know there was no sound. I super appreciate it. I believe you guys can hear me now, so give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Appreciate it. Thank you, Miss Daldi. God dang, thank you. Okay. Yes, I do read the live chat, okay, but I also have 1,000 things on my computer screen. Okay. Yes, okay, everything's good? Everybody's good? Everything's good? Let me know. We'll take a bit longer of a break. Okay. Stuart says yes. Cuddy says yes. All right. Double O'Neill says back it up. Let's back it up then. I got you. Thank you guys for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. All right, cool. So if you just joined us, welcome back from the break, a bit extra long break. We're talking about the Neverending Story, and we're in the middle where Atreyo is looking and he's on a search for this cure for the Empress. The Empress is the blue beam. She's the one who's dying. She's about to leave the world, right? It's crucial. She is crucial. She's the integral part of why magic exists in Fantasia. And the oracles say, we've been waiting for you a long time, Atreyu, one of the strong tree, the one from the strong tree, right? The Empress needs a new name. And so he's like, a new name? That's it? Oh my God. Like, man, no one could have told me that. Turtle couldn't have told me that? Like, that's pretty simple. You know, a new name. That's all. So he's unimpressed by what the cure is. But it's actually really important to the world that we live in today. And they say it's not just a new name. No one from Fantasia can do it. No one from that world, from the red sky that he lives in, nobody can give the blue beam a new name because they already know of her. They already are aware of her. The reason she needs a new name is so that the memory of her can be reintroduced into the world, so that she can be remembered. They say only a human child can give her this new name. The human children are the ones that live in the blue sky today, which is representative of Bastian, right? So, what does this mean to us? It means that we have forgotten all about that blue beam because it has died. It has fallen sick and retracted back into the earth, and we lost our name for it. We stopped talking about it. Some people, just like in the commandments in the Bible are totally different when you look at them in their original language. But one of the commandments is, you shall not bring my name to nothing. The nothing is there. You shall not bring my name to nothing, which means you shall not forget my name, right? So the name has been forgotten. The attribute, the description has been forgotten about the blue beam. And the blue beam is an integral part and the opposite of the apocalypse itself, right? We need to remember, we are the ones who are the human children. We are the ones who live under the blue sky. And we are the ones that need to give that event, that occurrence, that world, that part of our own history, a new name, which means we need to speak about it, talk about it, and reintroduce it back into our minds and the minds of others. It needs a new name. The old name has been lost. It's been forgotten. It used to go by so many different names, right? It needs a new one. So he says, a human child, where can I find one of those? They go beyond the boundaries of Fantasia. So he's like, yes, no problem. Falcor, let's go. Like, I forgive you, Falcor, that you didn't just fly me all the way to the Oracle, but whatever. So he jumps on him. Yeah, woo, we're having a great time. He's flying around on Falcor while searching for the boundaries of Fantasia. All the while, the nothing is chasing him, and it's getting stronger and stronger. This world tempest, this electrical storm, throws him off of Falcor, and he falls down into the earth. And, let's see this is like ruins, basically. See how he lands on the beach here? This reminds me of the movie Inception, when he goes really deep down and he ends up on the beach and then there's just ruined buildings all over the place. That's the same thing for us. If we go deep enough into our subconscious, we'll start to remember these things and we'll see that our buildings today will become ruins, and the ruins of old were ruined by this world storm, this tempest that doesn't leave one brick standing upon another. Now, as he's walking around, he's essentially remembering, by looking at these pictures, the story. He's remembering the story of everything he's gone through. But if you look closely, these pictures don't match the actual actors. They don't match the characters. This Atreo does not look like this Atreo. This Artax doesn't look like the other Artax. Even this ivory tower doesn't look exactly like the actual ivory tower. This is because it happens over and over and over again. We take different bodies, different forms, different shapes. We become, we have different names and whatnot. But the story is told over and over again. It's cyclical. We go through the same things. So he's looking at these. These were written down as memories. Why? These are essentially cave paintings. Okay. Hey, Ruth, welcome to my channel. Yes. So these are essentially cave paintings. We teach in academics that cavemen, chiseled away or drew on the cave walls just because they're dumb and they just want to draw on stuff, or, basically that's kind of the impression that I was given when I was younger. But the reality is we drew these things so that we would not forget them, so that we could pass these things on, because it seemed like many people were forgetting, that people were waking up after the apocalypse with complete amnesia. Some people went as far as to draw pictures on their very own flesh, knowing that they didn't want to forget their family or who they were, right? Which is possibly the origin of tattoos. Then we get caught up to the current moment where he's face to face with the wolf, or Gamork is actually his name. And he goes, "Who are you?" "I am Gamork." And he goes, "But I can't get beyond I can't get beyond Fantasia's boundaries." He's all tough. He gets super tough right here. He's like, "Who are you? What's up? What's going on?" And then Gamork's like, "I'm Gamork. Who are you? And what are you doing?" He goes, "I can't get beyond Fantasia's boundaries, man." And he's like really upset about it. So Gamork laughs and he's like, "Fantasia has no boundaries. Don't you know anything about Fantasia?" Now, we're going to skip. We're going to shift and transition from a real actual world scenario of the physical world that we live in to a symbolic scenario of ourselves, of knowing ourselves and getting in touch with ourselves. Let's talk about what Fantasia is. Fantasia, this is a fractalverse, okay? This is all happening within the mind of Bastian, okay? That doesn't make it not real. Everything you think of is as real as the world that you see and experience and bump into, right? It's fractal. And because it's fractal, that means that everything that we are doing that seems so very real to us is essentially a thought in a greater being. He says, "Don't you know anything about Fantasia? It is the world of human fantasy. Every part, every creature of it is a piece of the dreams and hopes of mankind, and therefore it has no boundaries." No boundaries in Fantasia. It's unlimited. It's only limited by us. We're the ones who create the nothing. We're the ones who forget all about our own past, all about the fantastic world that we once lived in and where we came from. And because we forgot about where we came from, we also forgot where we're going, what's going to happen, what's just around the corner. People are amazed by prophets and seers and prophecies and whatnot, when the prophets themselves are like unimpressed by their own ability because they've studied the past. They have remembered what's happened and come before. He says, "But why is Fantasia dying then?" Because people have begun to lose their hopes. People in the blue sky, people in this world today, we have lost hope and they forget their dreams. We have forgotten our dreams. We have forgotten the fantastic. We have lost our ability in general to be creative, to be imaginative, to remember the things of times past. So the nothing grows stronger. And he goes, "Well, what is the nothing?" It is the emptiness that's left, and it is like a despair destroying this world. And I have been trying to help it. Arr, and he starts growling. He goes, "But why?" Because people who have no hopes are easy to control. Those who have no hope are easy to control. So this guy's trying to get the power. He says whoever has the control has the power. So let's look up the book. what does the book say about this particular thing? Because it's pretty interesting. Gmork explains the nature of the nothing, and that if a fantastican or Fantasian enters into the nothing, so they become a lie in the human world. So whatever existed during the red sky shift in our ancient past, right? Whatever gets sucked up into the nothing, right, or forgotten about by us here in this world becomes a lie. That's the reality behind the nothing. Those things that we call fantasy and fiction and sci-fi and all of those other wonderful colorful words for lies, that's what they are to us in this world today that we live in. They're lies. That's why Bastian's dad at the beginning says, get your head out of the clouds, keep your feet on the ground, stop believing in unicorns and this and that, because those are lies. That's what we're taught by academics and academia today, that all of these things that are so fantastic and magical and creative and amazing are just lies. So we're taught that we get to go to movies to get lost in the lies. We might as well call movies the lies. You know what I mean? Like we're taught that they're lies. We're taught that there is no truth to the stories, to the legends, to the myths, to the religions, to all of these things, right? So, those who get caught up in the nothing are those who have been forgotten about by some person here in this world. And the more people that forget about our reality and our truth and our hidden history, or our history that is becoming hidden, the more hidden that reality becomes. The more the nothing takes it all away. It becomes nothing to us today. It becomes just a story. It becomes just a book, just a movie, not real, not true. He goes, I am the servant of the power behind the nothing. I was sent to kill the only one who could have stopped the nothing, and his name is Atreu. The only one who can stop the nothing are those of the strong tree, the world tree, the tree of life. Those of us who have the vibration to raise the rest of the vibration of the world, to keep the nothing from happening. And that's essentially what I think he's saying. So now Falkor is down in the ocean swimming, looking for the Orin. He totally finds it. The Orin is the light of the world. It's underwater. They say that there's water at the North Pole right now. Could there be land, or could the land still be there, but maybe it's just underwater? Possibly, because of the flood that we call the ocean. Like, I'd rather call it the flood remnant than the ocean, right? If we just slap words on stuff like that, they lose their meaning. We say, oh, let's go to the ocean. No, let's go to the flood remnant, because that's what it is. It's not just the ocean, or there's 7 different oceans in the world. No, there's not. There is one flood that is worldwide that still has its mark everywhere in the world. It's a remnant of when the world was flooded. Whenever the pure waters of the dome melted, broke apart, the sky fell, mixed in with all the debris and saltiness of the earth, and became ocean. That's what that is. It's the flood. It's still there. You can see it all over the place. All right, so then they show you the nothing, and Atreu's holding on. This is what many people, you're going to see this one day, okay? If the apocalypse comes during our lifetime, many of you will probably see this. If not, this might even be many of you, where the winds will be howling and whipping about, and people will be holding on out for a stroll, and then all of a sudden not be able to move or walk because they'll be floating, and then the winds will start carrying people away. They'll grab onto whatever is the closest nearby object. Thankfully, this little tiny tree that he's holding on to is rooted deep enough into the ground, in a strong portion of the ground, where it doesn't get sucked up by everything else. But as you can see, all of the rocks are being pulled up into the sky. All the trees are being torn from the ground. And they say that was the end of Fantasia. And only a few fragments of this once rich and beautiful world have been left by the nothing. Only a few fragments of our hidden past and hidden history have been left for us. Those are what I call the breadcrumbs. Little pieces of proof that our world wasn't always like this, that our world was once entirely different, that our world was a fantastic wonderland compared to today. So he's like, Falcor, check it out. Oh, it's the Ivory Tower. It's still there. The Ivory Tower is still there. The Blue Beam, Mount Meru, all of that is still there. They get to the princess. I had a huge crush on the princess, or whatever, the childlike empress, when I was a kid. So I was like, oh, wow. Hello. Hey, princess. What's up? What's going on? Hello. I'm just joking, sort of. Anyways, so they get to the princess, right? The childlike empress who lives in the tower that's locked in the castle. And she says, why do you look so sad? Really? Why do I look so sad? I've totally failed. All of Fantasia has been blown to pieces, and I'm just kind of here to just give you your Orin back. She's like, no, you haven't. Okay, what? What are you talking about? You brought him with you. So he brought the human child with him, the earthling child. He's like, wait a minute, time out. You knew about the earthling child? I started my quest here. Okay? She's like, of course, yeah, I knew about the earth. I knew everything. I totally knew about all this stuff. He's like, my horse died. I nearly frickin' drowned. The frickin' nothing, almost had me. You knew about this the whole time? Dude, why didn't you tell me whenever I was talking to the black dude with the cone head and all the weird people that were surrounded up here in the tower? Like, you could have just popped out and be like, you just have to give him a new name. I just need a new name, right? You could have told me that. So he's justifiably a little frustrated, but he can't see that further than that. He had to go through those experiences. He had to go through the trials and tribulations and hardships of life to find himself, because that's who he was looking for the entire time. It was the only way to contact an earthling. So he goes, where is he? He still doesn't entirely get it, right? I don't know how he passed through that magic mirror, but he totally doesn't get it. That him and Bastian are one and the same. He doesn't realize he's already a part of a never-ending story. He's like, the never-ending story? Because here's the thing. This kid, he's in the never-ending story. And most of us who are also in the never-ending story, we don't acknowledge it. We don't realize that we're actually in the never-ending story, that we're characters in the play of life, that we're being acted out, that it's going to happen over and over and over again. So we just are limited. We tend to be limited and only see from our current experience instead of seeing from the past, present, and future. Just as he shares your adventures, others are sharing his. And he's like, what? Holy cow, I can't believe this. So check this out, viewer. Okay, we're live streaming right now, but many of you are in the future. You're not here. We might as well be the red sky. We might as well be Fantasia to you. We're the past. You can't prove any of this happened or whatever, except for watching this video. You're looking into events right now from the future. Look at the chat, reading all the things that have happened, listening to me share my experiences and my perspectives with many of you. It's not live to those of you in the future, even my future self. It's not happening right now. You're reading, you're experiencing something that is the past. And you are with me right now in the past. Isn't that interesting? You're with everyone in the chat right now in the past. People will watch this video, if the end doesn't come quickly, 5 years into the future. But for them, when they watch it, it will be just like us experiencing it live right here, right now. You're with us. So hello. I hope we've done some good in the future. Anyway, his mind is blown. He's like, wow, this is fractal. This is deep. This is all getting crazy. These people know about me. This is insane. And she goes, they were with him when he hid from the boys in the bookstore. And he's like, whoa, now they're directly talking. Can you imagine how you would feel, person in the future right now, if I started calling you out by name, right? Jeffrey, Katrina, right? We were with you whenever you went through those trials and tribulations and hardships. All right, I don't want to get too creepy. I'm just playing. All right, so he says, but that's impossible. Is it impossible? No, it's clearly not impossible. It's happening right here, right now. We need to come to terms with it. We need to come to terms with there is a deeper meaning to life and existence and history and the future and our very present, which is shaping all of those things right now by the things that we do. We impact one another. We impact history. We impact the world and reality just by being. They were with him when he took the book with the orange symbol on the cover, in which he's reading his own story right now. He's like, I can't believe it. He has to walk away from the book for a minute. Does this ever happen to you? You've been so deep in your research or study and some stuff starts to hit hard and hit home and you're like, okay, break time. Like I got to take a quick break. I got to soak all this in. There's a lot of stuff coming my way. It's understandable. But then the blue light flashes from the storm outside, the storm that is quickly approaching him in his blue sky world, quickly coming around the corner. He says, they can't be talking about me. He doesn't understand. He has the power to stop it. Not him, you. You have the power to stop it. And by you, I mean all of us. We're all connected. We have the power, but we need your help. Okay, you're a part of us. We have to work together. That's what they don't want us to do. That's what we are keeping ourselves from doing, because ultimately there is no they, there's just us. Or, you know what I mean? Anyway, we have the power to stop it. He can't imagine one boy could be that important. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you're just not that important, that you can't make a difference by your actions? I'm not talking about voting. I'm talking about adding to the world. I'm talking about being the change that you would like to see. Because we need you. We need you to. We need your help. I'm talking to whoever you are that's had a bad day and you want to take it out on somebody else. I'm talking about you who is about to make a bad choice, a selfish choice, something that might take away from or rob or hurt or kill or steal or whatever it may be. We need your help. We need you to choose good. We need you to add to the world because you're a part of us. You're a part of the collective. And we are the change. We're the thing that can stop the nothing. He has to give me a new name. We collectively have to give this event that happens, right? Which is represented by all of the different savior gods and figures and goodness and good essence, and then all of the bad that comes into this world and the destruction and the realization that there is a destruction, a cataclysm cyclically that happens in our world over and over and over again, creating a never-ending story. We have to name it. We have to talk about it. We have to speak it back into existence so that we can acknowledge it and embrace it and accept it as a part of our lives and our history and our culture. He's already chosen it. I mean, many of you have probably already chosen it. If you can call it whatever you'd like to call it, just call it something. You know what I mean? We don't have to argue about the names. We don't have to argue about what it's called, how it's spelled, how it's pronounced. Just name it. Talk about it. Bring it into being. Bring it into fruition. Just call it out. It's only a story. Is it? Is it just a story? It's not real. Well, who's he trying to convince? He's talking to himself right now. So then she gets really upset. And this part broke my heart when I was a kid. I'm like, oh my God, no. Don't cry. And then she looks right at you. Right at you. Because it's not about Bastian. It's not about this character, this kid, this child actor. It's not about this one person in the story. It's about you. Whoever you are right now watching this video. It's about you. This whole story, everything. Every story, every song has been written for you. Every story has been written for you. Everything that you see and experience in life is there for you. So it's only appropriate that they look right at you. It says, why don't you do what you dream, viewer, subscriber, watchers? Why don't you do what you dream? Don't you have dreams? Don't you have goals and aspirations? And don't you want to live in a way that you're not living now? Why don't you? I have to keep my feet on the ground. That's many of your responses. That was my response, and that still is my response from time to time, if I'm being honest. This is our response. We have to keep our feet on the ground. Well, who told us that? This world. The father figure, the male energy in this world says to be grounded. Stop dreaming. Stop daydreaming. She says, call my name. Call out. Name it. Talk about it. Save that world. Save this world. So he says, all right. He looks like a Jedi right there. I love it. All right. I will do what I dream. I love this part. So he goes out. He opens up the window, which is symbolic of the sky opening or whatever, and calls out into the storm, defying the lightning outside and the wind and the rain. And he yells out a new name for the childlike empress, which just happens to be the name of his mother. Now, they don't tell you the name, not even in the captioning, but in the book, it's Moonchild. Moonchild, the child of the moon. Interesting. I'm going to leave that one for you guys. And then all of a sudden, everything goes dark. And he says, why is it so dark? And he's in there. Bastian, not Atreyo. Atreyo's gone because they've merged. They've become one and the same. They've accepted that there is no difference between the past and the future. He says, why is it so dark? In the beginning, it is always dark, she says. What's left of Fantasia? One grain of sand is all that remains. Just a breadcrumb. Just a breadcrumb. Fantasia's totally disappeared. Fantasia can arise anew from your dreams and your wishes. They're talking to you, not Bastian. Not the little boy in the movie. They're talking to you. Fantasia can be born again. Fantasia can come about once again. The old ways can return. The magic can return to this world. And all it takes is a breadcrumb, a grain of sand, a little piece, a little spark, one step. What are you going to wish for? She asks you. What are you going to wish for? That's all you need. That's where it starts. A wish, a desire, a will. What is your will? What will you do? So he thinks, first wish. I want to ride Falcor. That's what I want to do, right? Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's only a story in my butt. Let's jump on Falcor and fly through the sky. I love it. The craziest thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how crazy your wishes are, your dreams, whatever it is. They're not out of reach. Wish. Think about it. Manifest it. Walk in the direction of it and make it happen. So he's just having the time of his life. I would have done the same thing. That probably would have been my first wish as well. Timothy Smith says, I was wondering when the sky turns to red, will the oceans then turn red for that cycle? Well, I would say probably, yeah. You know, since they're sort of reflecting like the blue up there or whatever. And yeah, because water's not blue in our world. So it's not going to be red in that world. It's just going to reflect the color from the sky. So anyways, he's like, Atreyu, Artex, what else does he want to do besides ride Falcor, ride on top of a giant Fantazoid like he's the kid from the Avatar. What was that? I always forget that kid's name. But he also rides on top of some sort of flying white creature, right? He wants to revisit the stories. He wants to meet the characters that he's heard so much about and all of the myths and the legends. So he goes out looking for Atreyu and Artax, who are both back to life. And he's like, what do you want to wish for next? He's like, I want to get those bullies what they deserve. They threw me in the trash. They threw you in the trash. They put all of our most important and valuable pieces of writings and history and everything in the garbage, and they treated us like garbage. So guess what? You want to see them digging around in the trash, right? After the apocalypse, you will. After the apocalypse, it's the great leveler. All of the world's leaders, who are the bullies of the world, essentially, they're going to they'll be stripped of all of their power. They'll be afraid. They'll be running around, sifting through garbage that's debris that's fallen back down to the earth, trying to find relics and whatnot, right? They'll be trash diggers, and you'll see that. So then they start freaking out because a Fantazoid just dropped down from the sky. And what do they call it? A monster. This is where we get our monsters in all of our monster movies and horror flicks and stuff. Good or bad. So they go back into the trash can, etc. And they say, Bastian made many other wishes and had many other amazing adventures. But that's another story. Not the end. It just keeps on going. It just keeps on going and going and going. Actually, this was like the middle of the book. So if you read the book, the movie ends where the middle of the book is. So it continues on and it keeps on going. What'd you guys think? Did you guys like that presentation? That is the never-ending story. This is the never-ending story, and we're all a part of it. I know many of you will walk away from this video if you've actually watched all of it. You might be in another place. You might be like, wow, that was deep. Wow, amazing. Wow. And you might be thinking about things. But the shadow of forgetfulness will fall, and that veil will cover many of you, and those clouds will start to envelop your mind, and you'll have what they call like a fog of war, where we get dulled out by all of our electronics and all of our modern day dramas and whatever it is. I hope that you don't. I hope that you hold on to whatever you've taken away from this presentation, and that something resonates within you and you allow it to continue resonating. Allow it to be a splinter in your mind. Allow it to be something that's just always there, and you feel it and you sense it and you know it. And I hope you look into it, and ultimately I hope you name it and give it a name. Cuddy says, I killed it. Nim Consultants says, standing ovation. Hey, thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, everything. Awesome breakdown. Jonathan Holt, thank you. Candy Jones says it was really good. Bravo says, blue beam me. Hey, I appreciate you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and go. Let's roll the credits. I love all of you. I love being here. I love doing this with you guys for however long it lasts. And until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
I'll try so hard to fade away. I'll try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. Oh, but there's something holding on, the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. I know I should have done this, should have quit this long ago. Can't stand another heartbreak, but it's time to let it go. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. Oh, but there's something holding on, the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake